The moment the girl in the wheelchair hit the ground, the air shifted. Laughter followed. But 30 minutes later, a black girl stepped forward and shut it all down in front of the entire school. That Thursday morning started out like any other at Grant Middle in Birmingham, Alabama. The buses rolled in heavy, brakes squealing as tired engines hissed to a stop across cracked asphalt. Doors swung open, and students spilled out in waves. Hoodies half-zipped, earbuds in, half awake, all rushing toward the same place. Among the noise and crowd, no one noticed Nia Dalton rolling alone across the lot. She moved without fanfare, her wheelchair gliding quietly past scuffed curbs and trash bins. 13 years old, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, and softer-spoken than most, Nia had learned long ago how to be invisible. She didn't complain about it. Born with spina bifida, she'd grown up with wheels under her body the same way others walked. It was her normal. What stung wasn't her condition, it was the way people chose not to see her. She was inches from the school ramp when 3 shadows blocked her path. Tyson Ray, 8th grade linebacker. Broad build, narrow mind. His smirk arrived before he did. Blake and Drew flanked him, arms crossed like guards outside a club. They didn't talk at first, just stood there, staring her down. Then Blake leaned in, tapped the side of her chair, and grinned. "You race this thing? Or just park it for show?" Nia's fingers tensed around her wheels. Her lips stayed closed. "Come on," Tyson said, stepping closer with a smirk. "Let's help you speed things up." Instead of stepping aside, he bent low, grabbed the front of her wheelchair, and yanked. The metal tilted, sudden and cruel. Her body lurched, her bag slipped, and in a blink Nia hit the pavement, hard. A thud cracked through the morning shuffle. For a split second, everything stopped. Even the wind held its breath. Then came the sound. Snickering, gasping. Some kids turned away. Some watched, stunned. A few pulled out their phones but didn't press record. No one moved. Nia stayed still. One arm crumpled beneath her, her notebook half open beside her. She stared at the sky, lips moving in a whisper only she could hear. Tyson stood over her like it was a joke. Blake was already high-fiving him. They didn't notice the girl stepping off bus 12. Layla Morgan saw the fall, heard the laughter, and watched Tyson laugh like he'd just scored a touchdown. Her jaw tightened. Without thinking, she cut through the crowd. Layla wasn't one for scenes. She wasn't popular, didn't wear class officer badges or honor roll pins. But there was something about her. Something still. Something burning. She dropped to a crouch beside Nia. "You all right?" Nia gave a slow nod. Her eyes said more than her mouth ever could. Layla helped her sit up, brushed the grit from her sleeve, then stood up and turned toward the boys. Her voice didn't rise. It struck. "You think that was funny?" Tyson looked over, surprised. But that smugness was already slipping. Layla didn't flinch, and neither did the crowd anymore. "Mind your business," Tyson snapped. Layla didn't flinch. She stood slowly, shoulders square. She wasn't tall, but she didn't need to be. "It is my business." Her voice didn't waver, and something in the air shifted. The students who had frozen in place started inching closer, drawn in like moths to a flame. A few stepped forward. Phones stayed down, but eyes locked in. Tyson scoffed. "What? You gonna lecture me? What are you, her babysitter now?" Layla said nothing. She stepped past him without looking, crouched down, and helped Nia back into her chair. Her hands were steady, gentle. By then, Mr. Halston, the hallway monitor, jogged over, late as usual, asking, "What's going on here?" But no one answered. Tyson, Drew, and Blake had already faded into the crowd like cowards ducking the lights. The scene didn't end with justice. It ended with silence so thick it hummed. But that wasn't the end. What Tyson didn't know was that the school's annual Unity Day Challenge was scheduled for that afternoon. A district-wide event meant to build empathy and teamwork. Teachers loved it. Parents were invited. Students rolled their eyes until they were called to compete. That's when Layla got an idea. Back in homeroom, She walked straight up to Ms. Carter. "I want to enter this afternoon," she said. "And I want Tyson Ray on my team." Ms. Carter blinked. "You serious?" "Dead serious." By lunchtime, the sun had climbed high and the field behind the school buzzed with music and energy. Speakers blasted playlists. Colored cones lined the grass. Teachers unpacked clipboards and megaphones while students swarmed the bleachers. Team rosters were usually random, but Layla had already worked that angle. With help from Coach Daniels, she made sure her group was locked in. And there they were, Tyson, Drew, and Blake. All in matching red shirts, arms crossed, already bored. Then they saw who their team leader was. Layla Morgan stepped out, calm and unfazed. Clipboard in hand, she looked them dead in the eyes. "Today's about teamwork," she said. "But we're adding stakes. Last event. Obstacle relay. Win, and you choose someone for the principal's leadership lunch. Lose, and you clean the cafeteria for a week." Tyson's smirk returned, cocky and shallow. "Deal." 30 minutes later, the final relay began. Each team would run a course: sprint zone, tire flips, balance beams, and a surprise final leg. At the end, a wheelchair push. One student rides, one pushes. Tyson laughed when he saw it. "You're joking." "Nope," Layla replied. "You're pushing her." His brow furrowed. "Who?" Layla nodded toward the sidelines. Nia Dalton wheeled forward, navy shirt, bandaged elbow. Quiet, steady gaze. Tyson's throat tightened. "She's our final runner," Layla said flatly. He hesitated. "She can't." "She is. The rules say one rides, one pushes. Let's go." The field stirred. Teachers leaned closer. Coach Daniels raised the whistle, then blew. The race exploded. Tyson charged through his section, driven more by pride than sportsmanship. Drew fumbled through the tires. Layla cleared the beam. And then, Tyson ran to the final station, chest heaving, sweat at his brow. Nia was already waiting. He grabbed the handles. "Hold on," he muttered, and began pushing. The path wasn't smooth. Grass dipped and rose. Orange cones made a tight weave. "Left," Nia called softly. "You're tipping." Tyson adjusted, breath tight. The crowd leaned forward, watching, and just like that, everything began to shift. The field was nearly silent as the final stretch began. Then came the shouts. "Let's go, Nia!" Layla and her team clapped and called out as Nia raised the baton, gripping it tight, and crossed the finish line in her chair. They had won. For a moment, no one reacted. Just stillness. Then, slowly, the applause began. First from the teachers along the sidelines. Then from scattered students. It wasn't loud. It wasn't staged. It was real. Even Drew and Blake, still panting from their run, stared at Nia like they were seeing her for the first time. Nia didn't wave. She didn't soak it in. She just sat there, chest rising and falling, holding the baton like it meant something far more than a race. Her face was calm, focused. Tyson stood behind her, hands still on the wheelchair grips. His voice didn't rise. His grin didn't return. For once, he was quiet. Something in his face shifted. Not anger. Not pride. Something closer to shame. But Layla wasn't finished. "If you felt that," she said later, looking directly into the camera of a friend's phone, "drop a 1 in the comments." That clip went up within the hour. But the real moment came later, after the crowds cleared and the music faded. In the same hallway where it had all started, Layla met with Ms. Carter and Principal Gaines. She wasn't there to get Tyson suspended. That would have been easy, maybe even satisfying. But that wasn't the point. "People saw it happen," Layla said. "They saw a girl go down, and no one moved. That's what needs to change." Principal Gaines leaned forward in his chair. Gray at the temples, his tie slightly crooked, he'd worked at Grant Middle for nearly 20 years. He didn't interrupt. "What do you suggest, Ms. Morgan?" he asked. Layla inhaled, slowly. "Give us 10 minutes at tomorrow's assembly," she said. "Let Nia and I speak. Let us show them what it really means to stand up for someone. The next morning, the gym filled just like it always did for the school's monthly character assembly. Announcements, awards, a few half-hearted claps. Most students zoned out. Then Principal Gaines took the mic. "Before we close," he said, clearing his throat, "two of our students have something they'd like to say." A ripple of whispers ran through the bleachers. Then Layla and Nia rolled onto the court together. Layla walked beside her, slow and steady. Nia moved herself to center court and parked. The room hushed. Layla took the mic first. "Most of you were there," she began. "Some laughed, some looked away, some didn't care." She paused, voice steady. "But Nia didn't fall because she's in a chair. She fell because someone thought it was okay to treat her like she didn't matter." Silence. Even the teachers looked uneasy. "We talk about kindness. We hang up posters about inclusion. But it doesn't mean anything if we stay quiet when it matters most." She looked down at Nia, then handed her the mic. "My name is Nia Dalton," Nia said, her voice soft but clear. "I've been in this chair my whole life. Most days, I don't think about it." She took a breath. "But yesterday reminded me of how some people still see me. As weak. As a joke." Her voice wavered. "But only for a second. What they didn't see? The hours of therapy. My mom working doubles to keep my wheels moving. The nights I taught myself how to get up after falling." She looked up, and the gym stayed silent, waiting. "What they saw," Nia said, her voice reaching every corner of the gym, "was a girl in a chair." She paused, sweeping her eyes across the rows of students and staff. "But what I want you to see now is a girl who got back up." The silence that followed wasn't stiff or forced. It was full. One kid shifted in their seat, then another. A slow ripple began. Soft claps at first, then louder, stronger. Soon, nearly the entire gym was applauding, not out of pity, out of something deeper. Respect. Later that day, Tyson walked the halls of Grant Middle by himself. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't surrounded by teammates or grinning sidekicks. Eyes followed him down the corridor, not with fear, not with awe, but something else. Recognition. Like a mask had cracked. He turned the corner near the library and nearly collided with them. Layla and Nia, seated by the windows, flipping through a worn copy of The Hate You Give, sharing a quiet laugh. Tyson froze for a second. He could have walked the other way. Would have been easier. But he didn't. He stepped forward, slow. "Hey, He scratched the back of his neck. "I didn't mean for things to go like that. I was just messing around. I didn't think she'd—" Layla looked up, eyes sharp. "You didn't think." Her voice was even. "That's the only part that matters." Tyson opened his mouth, shut it, then turned to Nia. "I'm sorry. For real. I was being a jerk." Nia studied him. Her face was unreadable. "I forgive you," she said at last. "But I don't need an apology." She leaned forward just slightly. "I need you to do better." Tyson nodded. Unsure, but not defensive. "Yeah, okay." He turned to go, then paused. "If you ever need help fixing that wheel," he said, glancing at her front caster, "I'm actually pretty good with tools." Nia gave the smallest shrug. "We'll see." By week's end, something in the air had shifted at Grant Middle. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. Students started holding doors open more often, not just for Nia, but for each other. A few new faces began joining her and Layla at lunch. Teachers took moments in class to talk about things they hadn't before. Disability, visibility, voice. Principal Gaines announced a new monthly event, The Circle. A student-led forum to speak freely about what they carried, what they needed, and how the school could grow. At the first meeting, Layla and Nia spoke side by side. Tyson came too. He didn't speak. Not yet. But he listened. That spring, Grant Middle won a statewide award for inclusive programming. But for Nia, the real recognition came quietly, on a morning in April. She wheeled into the lunchroom, expecting the usual. Instead, she found her favorite table already taken, by something unexpected. A folded piece of paper taped to the seat, reserved for Nia and company. She didn't smile because she needed a seat. She smiled because, for the first time, people saw her as more than the girl in the chair. She was Nia, and she had risen. Summer crept in early that year in Birmingham, the air sweet with honeysuckle. Sidewalks shimmered with heat, and Nia's days filled with end-of-year tests, field days, and planning for the spring talent showcase. But beneath the excitement, something else stirred. The year wasn't just ending, it was turning, and at the center of that shift were two girls who wouldn't let things go back to how they were. They never asked for permission. They didn't raise their voices, but somehow, without trying to be anything other than themselves, two girls rewrote what strength looked like. It was Layla's idea to do something for the showcase. Nia hesitated. Perform? On stage? She said one afternoon as they sat under the old magnolia near the track field. I don't know. That's not really me. Layla shrugged. Why not? You write all the time. That poem you showed me, the one about the sky that burned, that was fire. Nia laughed softly. That was just for me. Maybe, Layla replied, tilting her head. But maybe somebody else needs to hear it too. For 2 weeks they stayed after school in the library, scribbling lines in spiral notebooks, crossing out verses, building something real. They wrote about walking through halls that looked past them, about words that didn't shout but still cracked walls. Layla brought rhythm, energy, and movement. Nia brought stillness, weight, and clarity. They met in the middle and turned it into something unshakable. The day of the talent showcase came fast. The gym was packed, students in glitter sneakers and nervous chatter, teachers ushering kids into rows, parents leaning against walls with phones raised, ready to catch their kids' moments. Mr. Hargrove, the drama teacher, adjusted the mic stand between acts, calling names like a game show host. Then he paused and announced, "Next up, Layla Morgan and Nia Dalton, performing an original spoken word piece." The room rustled. Layla stepped out first, steady. Her gaze swept the crowd, serious, focused. Nia followed, back straight, hands calm in her lap. They rolled and walked to center court, together. Layla began. They said quiet girls don't spark change. That silence means softness. That stillness means surrender. But I've seen lightning inside calm skies, and thunder rolling in, on wheels. Nia picked up without missing a beat. I've been unseen and too visible. A punchline, a shadow, a whisper. Now, I'm the period at the end of your assumptions. The rhythm between them built, not music, but pulse. Truth volleyed back and forth. Words not just spoken, but delivered. The crowd didn't fidget. No one whispered. It was the kind of quiet you earn, the kind no bell could break. When they finished, the silence held. One breath. Then, applause. Not polite, not delayed. It roared. In the back, Nia's mother stood frozen, hand over her mouth, eyes full. Even Principal Gaines blinked fast and reached for the corner of his sleeve. Tyson sat with his younger brother near the edge of the bleachers. He didn't clap right away. He watched as Nia wheeled off stage beside Layla, both of them laughing, shoulders light, whole in a way the world couldn't touch. His brother leaned over. That was cool. Tyson nodded, slow. Yeah, it was. The last week of school came in a rush. Yearbooks passed, lockers emptied, inside jokes scribbled in pen. On the final day, Tyson found Nia in the library, her hands folded over a worn paperback. I heard you're heading to Washington High next year, he said, rocking on his heels. She looked up, curious. I am. You? He nodded. Same. There was a pause. No tension. Just space. Then he added, You think they're ready for us? Nia smiled, quiet but sharp. Let's find out. Nia looked up from her book and gave a slight nod. Yeah. Their support program's a better fit. Tyson shifted, his voice quieter than usual. You're gonna do great there. She didn't respond with words, just a soft smile that landed like a full sentence. Layla was staying put for one more year. No more daily walks to class with Nia. No more library meetups or cafeteria talks. But they had already built something stronger than routine. They made a deal. Check in every Sunday. Share whatever they'd written that week, and never let quiet moments turn into missed chances. That summer, Naya and her mom headed south, driving through winding Alabama back roads until they reached Selma. Together, they crossed the historic bridge, the same one her great-grandfather had marched across decades ago. They moved in silence, one step, one wheel rotation at a time. Her mother spoke gently as they went. Sometimes the boldest thing you can do is just keep showing up. Back in Birmingham, Layla found herself called into the principal's office just days before break. "I've been watching what you're building," Mr. Gaines said, gesturing toward a folder on his desk. "Next year we're launching a new student council focused on equity and voice. I want you helping lead it." Layla didn't hesitate. She had pages of ideas already scribbled in her notebook. Peer ally workshops, open forums, support circles. "We need to make sure no one gets overlooked again," she said. When September came, both campuses had a new energy. At Washington High, Naya slipped into a poetry club where every line dropped felt like armor, and metaphors carried more truth than textbooks. She performed at the first open mic night. A girl in the audience with teal braids and tear-streaked cheeks waited at the exit just to say, That helped me." At Grant, Layla transformed room 204 into a place where people came to be heard. The first meeting had 6 students. By week 4, they had to pull in extra chairs. The group ran community circles, practiced real listening, and built trust from the ground up. Above the lockers near the science wing, a new mural began to take shape. Layla's design, painted stroke by fellow students. It showed 2 girls, one upright, one in a chair, both facing forward like they'd never learned how to flinch. And above them, in vivid paint that refused to blend in, it read, "Standing tall isn't always about feet." There was no announcement, no ribbon, just art and truth on display. Years rolled on. Staff turned over, students moved on. The paint faded. But the meaning didn't. Teachers still pointed to that wall, telling the story to newcomers. "This is where the shift began," they'd say. "Right here." Sometimes, a younger student would ask, "Didn't something happen that year? Something with that girl, the one in the wheelchair?" And someone would answer, "That was the day we stopped walking past each other." Because strength doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes it speaks with presence. Sometimes it leads without asking. And sometimes, when the world holds its breath, it moves forward. Together.